The difficulty of hunting a platinum trophy varies wildly. Some are simple and straightforward, while others require the player to master every facet of the game to find success. The Like a Dragon series is no stranger to the latter, as they're notoriously known for their difficulty, though this varies across the series. As far as games go, Yakuza 3 isn't the worst game to collect trophies in, but what separates most from its platinum is the Minigame Master trophy, which requires the player to complete all minigames. When Yakuza 3 made its way to the West back in 2010, Sega infamously cut a sizable amount of content from the game, as they felt it wouldn't resonate with Western audiences. Apparently, over 20 sub-stories were removed, along with the Hostess Clubs as well as the Hostess Maker and several minigames. While the remaster retains a vast majority of content from the game's initial release, the Answer minigame was not included in the Japanese version of the remaster, and remains absent across all regions. Nonetheless, minigames like Aroma Message, Mahjong, and Shogi are available across all versions of the remaster. There are a total of 19 minigames in Yakuza 3 Remastered, each with their own set of requirements, whether it be getting the highest score or completing the highest criteria. This is without a doubt the most time-consuming trophy in the game, as some of the minigames are quite tricky to complete. The casino games can be played at the Dragon Palace Casino after completing the sub-story Return of the Dragon Palace in Chapter 5. Or at the Fukuma Casino once you're allowed free reign of Purgatory at the beginning of Chapter 8. Although the latter is the preferred location for completion, as they have the highest stakes for Blackjack, Poker, and Roulette. In Blackjack, the objective is to get a hand with a total card value higher than the dealer's, without exceeding 21. Ultimately, it all comes down to luck, but with cheating items, this is made very simple. The Blackjack amulet, which can be found in Kamurocho Locker 23 and Ryukyu Locker 26, can be used to get completion for this. Be sure to get both, as the Blackjack amulet will only give the player 5 blackjacks in a row, as long as both amulets are used at the high stakes table at the Fukuma Casino and the player bets 1,000 chips every round. The requirement will be met in no time. Poker is a card game played by 2 or more people who bet on the value of the hands dealt to them. A player wins the pool either by having the highest combination at the showdown or by forcing all opponents to concede without a showing of the hand. That being said, being overly aggressive in betting might scare some opponents off, though it's advised to fold immediately if you have a bad hand, to avoid losing any more chips. The requisite amount for completion is 10,000 chips in a single session. This doesn't factor in losses, however, as the chips won will stay in your progress regardless. Just don't leave the table until you've earned 10,000 chips. In Roulette, a ball is dropped onto a spinning wheel, with players betting on the number at which the ball will come to rest. It may not look like it, but this is by far the easiest requirement for completion, provided you have the right cheat item. The Zero Jewel guarantees that the ball will land on either 0 or 0, and can be obtained one of 2 ways. Either through Rikia when given the option to show him around town in Chapter 6, or through Bob Utsunomiya once all sub-stories are completed. With there being a 50% chance of the ball falling on either, bet it all on a single space. So long as you saved before, you got nothing to worry about, as you can always reload your save and try again. You'll be awarded 36,000 chips out of a 1,000 chip bet. Cee-Lo is a dice game where players bet against a banker using 3 dice, with the banker rotating throughout the game. The main goal is to have a better roll than the banker, or the other players if you are the banker. It's best to bet 1 tag each round until it's your turn to be the banker. Cheat items come into play upon becoming the banker, as you'll get the bet of whoever lost, which will be everyone in this case. Cho-Han is another dice gambling game, where players wager on whether the sum of 2 dice will be even or odd. If the player guessed correctly, they'll win back their bet and a portion of those who bet the opposite way. There are some cheat items, but they don't make much of a difference at the end of the day. Koi Koi is a Japanese card game played with Hanafuda cards, with the objective being to collect special combinations of cards during play. Upon scoring a hand, the player will be given the option to call koi or not. The play will continue if the player calls koi, and they'll even be able to try and score more points. Be wary though, as the opponent can end the round with points while you get nothing, if they're able to form a scoring hand before you can form another, that is. Not calling koi will end the round and the player will score from the hands they made as the next round begins. There's no strategy for earning 10,000 tags, though it's worth noting that you'll unlock higher difficulties the more you play, as the difficulty dictates how much one can bet, essentially making it easier to rack up points. Oicho-Kabu is another game played with Hanafuda cards, though it's not the individual cards that matter, but more so their number value. In this game, there are 4 cards laid out on a table, and each player bets on one of the cards to form their hand. A second card is dealt to each hand, as each player decides whether they'll go with the cards they have or try for a third card and see if it'll improve their hand. Much like bracket, the goal is to get a hand value as close to 9 as possible without exceeding it. The dealer will always win on ties, but if you have a better hand, you'll win your bet. There are no cheat items, but the game is simple and straightforward to the point that it shouldn't take too long to get the required amount. Yakuza 3 introduced trophies to the series, with the Eastern releases having 50 trophies compared to the 45 in the Western release. Touchy-Feely is amongst one of the 5 trophies that were removed due to the removal of the massage parlor minigame in the initial Western release, but was reinstated in the remaster along with the associated requirement for completion. Your focus should be on the meter, or more so the bar on said meter that goes up and down to make sure the bar doesn't reach the very top or very bottom of the meter. There is some merit to keeping the bar at the very top section, as the higher the bar is on the meter, the quicker you'll rack up points. Be wary though, as the bar will either change directions or speed up in one direction, prompting you to press the corresponding button to push the bar up or down. Once it's completed, both the left and right sticks need to be spinned in order to finish off the massage. So long as the prerequisite amount is achieved for both courses, you'll be promoted to the rank of Serene Dragon. Shogi, also known as Japanese chess, is a 2-player strategy game where the goal is to checkmate the opponent's king. There are many ins and outs to playing Shogi, though for the sake of completion, one could easily play the minigame's challenge mode and beat the first opponent 5 times. It's just that simple. Amon is a reoccurring secret boss in the Like a Dragon series, often requiring the player to complete a significant amount of side content to unlock the fight, though one would be remiss to not be caught off guard by the completion menu in the older games, as it only shows the sub-stories out of the ones already started or completed, and not all sub-stories like the newer games. Death Bowler is amongst one of the few sub-stories in the remaster that isn't marked on the map, but is unlocked by getting a bowling score of over 200, which just so happens to be a requirement for completion. The general play of the game is to knock down as many pins as you can in as few throws with the bowling ball, with the highest score achievable in one frame being 30 points, only possible by scoring at least 3 strikes in a row. In order to get a strike, you'll want to position yourself 2 steps to the left or right, then aim for the space between the front pin and the one directly next to it, and go full throttle. If it's caught perfectly, you'll strike every time. If not, you'll have to compensate by spinning the ball to get a strike. Karaoke is a rhythm-based minigame where the player must press the buttons displayed on screen in time with the music and lyrics. With the exception of Kamurocho Lullaby, you'll be given the option to choose between simple and lively interjections, the latter of which being harder than the former, but required to score at least 900 points. There isn't much else to say about this mode, though fun fact, did you know Yakuza 3 was the first entry in the series to feature karaoke? Much like previous entries, Yakuza 3 is primarily set in the Tokyo district of Kamurocho. This entry introduces Okinawa as an explorable city for the first time, consisting of downtown Ryukyu and Morning Glory Beach, the latter of which Kiryu can go fishing at by interacting with the fishing rod by the shoreline, though he'll need bait to begin, which can be bought at the fishmonger and public market. The distance in which the rod can be cast depends on the type of bait used. Once selected, it'll be time to cast out the rod to match up with the icons on the bar, at which point the player will have to wait until they get a hit to start reeling it. The direction in which the rod is pulled determines how much tension gets added on, with tension rising as the fish changes direction, prompting the player to pull the rod in the direction the fish is facing, whilst reeling in a consistent manner to maintain tension without exceeding or falling below. While it takes some tricky maneuvering, the player will reel in their catch, so long as everything goes to plan. Club Sega, currently known as Gaigo, is a gaming arcade chain based on the real-life series of the aforementioned arcades across Japan. While the games available for play differ from one game to the next, each entry aside from Yakuza 6 also features UFO Cather machines based on the real-life Claw game. Most of the prizes can be found at either Club Sega. If you can't find a prize in the machine, you can leave the arcade and return to have them restocked, or ask the attendant to do the same. As mentioned earlier, not every prize is available at either location, as Silky Pio-chun can only be found at the arcade in Theater Square, under a pile of small Pios with a big one on top. While the main goal is to get a solid grip on a prize with the claw, there is some slight strategy involved, whether it be prizes that aren't blocked by others or too close to the sides. One thing is certain, collecting all possible prizes will require a whole lot of practice and patience. Boxcelios is an arcade game playable at Club Sega. However, unlike some of the other arcades featured in the series, this is not based on a real Sega game. In Boxcelios, you pilot an invincible ship armed with a laser cannon. with the goal of the game being to destroy as many enemies as possible, which can be achieved by shooting their glowing core or a majority of their ship. Be that as it may, the whole game only lasts 30 seconds. Yet time stands still for 2 seconds upon a new enemy ship appearing at the beginning of each level, so use this to your advantage. Keep in mind that the ship moves much faster when you're not shooting, and the ship can move in 2 dimensions to make aiming easier. In this game, players throw small, sharp-pointed projectiles called darts at a circular target known as a dart board. The character's arm must be moved around to aim at the dart board, after which it must be pulled back and released to throw the dart. For an ideal throw, the arm must be pulled back halfway and released quickly. In 01, the objective is to start at either one of the 4 scores and reach 0. The fastest way to beat 01 is to focus on scoring triple 20s, until the game starts suggesting shots to take to get to 0. In cricket, only 7 regions are available to hit. To score, the player must first claim a section by hitting it 3 times, after which subsequent hits will grant the section's respective score value, or at least until the opponent closes out the number as well, at which point the number can no longer score points for anyone. The game will end either after all 5 rounds have been completed or if a player claims all sections. Whoever has the higher score will win by default. In Count Up, the objective is to achieve a high score, so focus on triple 20s. The basic idea of the batting cages is to hit a pitched ball at precisely the right moment to achieve home runs and accumulate points. The trick is not necessarily to watch the ball, but to watch the bat. Kiryu idly wobbles his bat back and forth as he stands in the box, but will tense up and go still when the pitch enters the strike zone. That's your cue to swing. The difficulty ranges from easy to extra hard. In Yakuza 3, an additional challenge was added in, with each course having different boards that must be hit by aiming at them using the analog stick. In spite of this, no aiming is required for the first course, as it's very reminiscent of the first 2 games, due to the fact that home runs are simply a case of hitting the pitches at the right time. While this sounds easy enough, a score of 1800 points is required in each course to complete the minigame. And with each successful hit netting you 100 points, you can only afford to miss 2 pitches for the quote-unquote easy course. The second course has 3 separate targets, each worth 100 points, and you'll have to aim with the analog stick. Upon hitting a target, it'll light up and is no longer worth any points, or at least until all 3 targets are hit, whereupon a small bullseye target worth 300 points will appear, and you'll have just 1 shot to get that before it goes away and you start over. With the bullseye netting 300 points and only popping up after hitting each target, you'll be able to get 600 points for every 4 pitches. That being said, this can be done in no more than 12 pitches, assuming you're able to successfully hit the bullseye each time. The third course is set up in a 3x3 grid. Much like tic-tac-toe, bonus points are given whenever a column, diagonal, or row of panels is lit up. When all panels have been lit up, the bullseye target will appear and will fetch you even more points, much like it did in the previous course. This course is unique in that it's possible to hit 2 panels at once, due to the panels being adjacent to each other. although the thick barrier around the center prevents you from doing this with the 5th panel. The final course plays vastly similar to the previous one, though the trick to hitting multiple panels at once is no longer possible on account of the panels being smaller and separated. Additionally, the targeting reticule has been removed. The best method I found was to physically mark the center of the reticule using a sticky note on a lower difficulty, then use that as reference to improve aiming on extra hard. It certainly works wonders, but be warned, as you can only afford to miss 3 pitches for the extra hard course. With this being a remaster, not being built from the ground up like the Kiwami games, it perhaps goes without saying that this is now the most dated entry in the franchise. That being said, some of the minigames are significantly harder than they should be. While this could be chalked up to the lack of quality of life improvements featured in later games, it seems one of the oversights with this remaster was the control sensitivity. For some reason, the right analog stick, which is used to direct darts or the cue ball in their respective games, has input for not only up and down, but left and right. Although it's not nearly as noticeable when playing darts, it sure as hell shows whilst playing pool, as the slightest horizontal movement will cause your shot to skew to one side or the other. So be sure to pull down on the right analog stick as vertically as possible to achieve the best possible outcome. I highly recommend using a pin to go down straight on the analog stick and a ruler to improve accuracy. In 9-ball, the objective is to legally sink the 9-ball. Although you're meant to sink the balls in numerical order, trick shots can bypass this requirement, allowing balls to be pocketed out of order, including the 9-ball, the latter of which will result in an early win. In 8-ball, players work through their assigned set of balls until they are left with the 8-ball as their final target. Fortunately, the AI isn't infallible and can make mistakes. That said, if the AI manages to sink the 8-ball prematurely, they'll lose and you'll win. In rotation, the objective is to score 61 points, with each ball worth its face number when sunk. Like 9-ball, a shot is only legal if the lowest number on the table is struck by the cue ball, but any balls that go in will add to your point total. Be wary though, as your opponent will get their turn if you fail to sink a ball, and you might not even be lucky enough to get another chance, especially when playing against the advanced or expert AI opponents. Non-U Country Club is a location in Okinawa that becomes accessible once Kiryu meets the city councilman in Chapter 3. This serves as the tutorial for the golf minigame, though you don't have to win to advance the story. From that point on, the golf minigame can be accessed via the monorail in downtown Ryukyu during the daytime. The aim of golf is to get the lowest score possible. Every hole is presented with a par, as in the strokes expected on average to get in the hole, with your entire score based on how much under or over par you are. You'll always want to place the ball on the green with your initial shot, or in the fairway if it's impossible to make it in one. Be sure to adjust the point of impact toward the bottom of the ball before shooting, as it will cause the ball to roll less upon impact with the ground. Once on the green, the final stage of play commences, with the golfer aiming to get the ball into the hole with a putter. It's as simple as that. Mahjong was one of the 4 minigames that were cut from the initial Western release, but was reinstated in the remaster. While it may seem very intimidating at first, those that are willing to put forth the effort to learn how to actually play it will prevail, and might even have as much fun with Mahjong as I have. In essence, you'll need to be the first one to make a hand with 14 tiles, consisting of a pair and 4 sequences made out of 3 tiles each, if possible. Be advised that stealing tiles from opponents will lower your score, so I wouldn't recommend it. If you still have a fully concealed hand and need one more tile to win, you can declare Ricci. Once declared, you will no longer be able to change your hand anymore, and will just have to wait for the tile you need to appear. If an opponent discards the tile you need, you can go out with a Ron by stealing their tile to complete your hand, with all the points won being taken directly from them. It's worth noting that you can go out with a Sumo by drawing it, in which case the points will be taken equally from each opponent. Yakuza 3 may not be an egregiously long platinum, or at least not necessarily when compared to some of the later games in the franchise. There's no denying that this entry comes with its own slew of issues at the expense of being a remaster and not being built from the ground up like the Kiwami games. Despite some of the minigames lacking the quality of life improvements found in later games, I genuinely had a lot of fun with this. Completing all minigames may sound like a daunting task, and though it'll take some time, practice really pays off. As mentioned earlier, the difficulty of hunting a platinum trophy varies wildly, with the vast majority of the Like a Dragon games notoriously known for their difficulty. Although this varies across the series, I'm eager to see for myself. While I've already obtained the Platinum Trophy for Yakuza 0, 6, the Kiwami games, and now the third game, there are still 10 other Platinum Trophies from the Like a Dragon series I have yet to obtain, so join me as I attempt to obtain the remaining Platinum Trophies from the aforementioned series. Videos like this are made possible by generous viewers like you. If you like what you see, be sure to subscribe for more.